You just got pulled over. The officer walks up to your window, and then he asks you one simple question. Most gun owners answer it without thinking, and that single answer can land them in handcuffs. Stay right here, because what I'm about to share could be the most important thing you learn this year. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed yet? Because what I'm about to reveal is the kind of information that most gun owners never hear until it's too late. Hit that subscribe button right now. I don't want you to be the person who finds out about this the hard way, sitting in the back of a police car wondering what went wrong. All right, let's get into it. First, let's set the scene. Imagine you're driving home one night. Everything is fine. You're not speeding, your registration is current, your lights are working. But an officer runs your plates and decides to pull you over for a minor reason. Maybe a broken taillight you didn't even know about. You pull over, you roll down your window, and you're calm. You've done nothing wrong. The officer comes to your window. He's polite. He asks for your license and registration. You hand it over. No problem. But then he leans in just a little and says these exact words. Do you have any weapons in the vehicle today? And right there, in that one moment, most gun owners make a mistake that changes everything. Some people say yes right away and start explaining themselves. Some people say no because they're nervous and they panic. Some people start to answer and then stop halfway through. And almost none of them realize they had a completely legal right to stay silent, and that staying silent was probably the smartest move they could make. Here's what most people get wrong about this. They think that if they have nothing to hide, they should just answer the question honestly and move on. They think being cooperative means answering every single question the officer asks. And look, cooperation is important. Being respectful is important. But answering that specific question, that's a different story entirely. Here's why. The question, do you have any weapons in the vehicle, is not a neutral question. It is an investigative question. The moment you answer it, you have started giving the officer information that can be used in a legal case. It doesn't matter if you're carrying legally. It doesn't matter if your permit is up to date. Once you start talking, everything you say, every single word, becomes part of the official record. Let me break this down for you with a real-world type scenario. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this clearly. Let's say you have a legal concealed carry permit. You have your firearm in your glove box. It's properly stored. Everything is completely legal. The officer asks if you have any weapons. You say yes, you have a handgun in the glove box, and you have a permit. Now the officer asks you to keep your hands visible while he runs your permit. While he's doing that, maybe your state has a law you didn't know about, something about transportation storage requirements, and now that legal weapon in your legal vehicle becomes a legal problem. Not because you're a criminal, but because you voluntarily gave information that opened up an investigation you didn't need to start. Now here's the crazy part. You didn't have to say a word about that firearm. In most states, you have the constitutional right, under the Fifth Amendment, to remain silent when answering a question could potentially incriminate you. And even in states where there is a duty to inform law, meaning you are legally required to tell an officer you're carrying, that duty almost always only kicks in when the officer directly asks you for your license and you're handing over your carry permit, or when you're asked specifically in a way defined by that state's statute. This is the part that shocked me when I first researched it. There is a massive difference between your right to remain silent and your legal duty to inform. These two things are not the same. And most gun owners confuse them constantly. So let's talk about the right way to handle this situation. Because I'm not telling you to be rude to officers. I'm not telling you to be difficult or confrontational. What I'm telling you is to be smart. There is a way to handle this question that is respectful, calm, and legally protective, all at the same time. The first thing you should do is know your state is duty to inform law before you ever get in a car with a firearm. Some states have what's called an affirmative duty to inform. That means you are legally required to tell the officer right away that you are carrying, even if they don't ask. States like Ohio and Michigan have had these kinds of laws. If you're in a state like that, you tell the officer. You say it calmly, clearly, and early. You say something like, "Officer, I want to let you know I have a valid carry permit and I am currently carrying." That's it. No extra details, no long explanations. The second thing is, in states where there is no duty to inform, you are not required to volunteer that information. And when an officer asks if you have any weapons in the vehicle, you have the right to politely and calmly say, "Officer, I prefer not to answer questions without speaking to an attorney first." Now, quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation and your specific state. Gun laws are different in every single state, and what applies in Texas may be completely different from what applies in New Jersey. I'm giving you the framework here. Your attorney gives you the exact details. If you're finding this helpful, I want you to imagine what you'll learn in my next video. I'm breaking down the 5 specific words that protect you when police ask about your gun, and why those 5 words have kept innocent gun owners out of jail. Subscribe right now so you don't miss that one. It goes live very soon. Now let's talk about the third thing most people completely miss. And this is the part nobody's talking about in the gun community right now. When you answer the weapons question, you are not just answering about that one gun. You are potentially opening the door to a full search of your vehicle. Here's why. In legal terms, when a person voluntarily discloses a weapon during a traffic stop, an officer may be able to argue they have reasonable concern for their safety. That concern, even if it's about a completely legal firearm, can be used as justification to ask you to step out of the vehicle, to ask to see the weapon, or in some cases to argue grounds for a more extensive search. This is not theory. This happens in real cases. A legal gun owner answers the weapons question honestly. The officer asks to see the firearm for safety reasons. The gun owner hands it over. During that moment, the officer notices something, maybe the way it's stored, maybe something about the magazine, maybe a modification, and suddenly a simple traffic stop has turned into something much more complicated. Here's what you need to understand. The Fifth Amendment gives you the right not to answer questions that could incriminate you. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches. These rights exist for a reason, and using them, calmly, respectfully, without aggression, is completely legal. It is not suspicious. It is not rude. It is your right as an American citizen. Let me give you the exact script you can use. If an officer asks, "Do you have any weapons in the vehicle?" you can say this. You say, "Officer, with respect, I choose not to answer questions about the contents of my vehicle. Am I being detained or am I free to go?" That one line does several things at once. It asserts your rights, it stays respectful, it signals that you know the law, and it forces the interaction to move in a clear legal direction. Hey, real quick, 73% of people watching this video right now are not subscribed to this channel. That means almost 3 out of 4 of you are going to miss the next video, the next update, the next piece of information that could actually protect you. Don't be in that group. Join the 50,000 gun owners who already trust this channel for honest, no nonsense legal information. Hit that subscribe button right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it could save you a decade. Now, let's talk about what happens after you assert your rights. Because this is where people get scared. They think that if they refuse to answer a question, the officer is going to arrest them on the spot or make the stop much worse. And look, I understand that fear. Traffic stops can be stressful. Nobody wants to make a tense situation worse. But here's the truth. Refusing to answer an investigative question is not a crime. It cannot be used as evidence against you. An officer cannot legally arrest you simply because you exercised your Fifth Amendment right. What they can do is continue the stop for as long as there is a legitimate legal reason to do so. But the moment that reason ends, you are free to go. And anything you didn't say cannot be used to keep you there. The key is staying calm. Keep your hands visible at all times. Speak clearly and politely. Do not argue. Do not get emotional. Simply state that you are choosing not to answer that question. You are not being hostile. You are being smart. Now here's one final thing I want you to remember. Know your state's specific laws. Know whether you have a duty to inform. Know where you can and cannot carry. Know the storage laws for your vehicle. The best protection you have at a traffic stop is knowledge you already have before the stop ever happens. Because in that moment, when the officer's at your window and the question is hanging in the air, that is not the time to be figuring things out. You need to already know the answer. This information could be more time sensitive than you think. Laws are changing fast right now, and new court decisions are coming out that directly affect gun owners at traffic stops. Subscribe to this channel right now because the next video is going to cover exactly what you need to do before these new changes take full effect. You do not want to miss that one. All right, let's bring this home. Here's the key takeaway from everything we covered today. When an officer asks if you have weapons in your vehicle, that is an investigative question, and you have the right to decline to answer it. Know your state's duty to inform law. Stay calm, stay respectful, and use your rights without apology. If this video helped you, do one thing right now. Hit that subscribe button. I spend hours every single week researching this stuff so you don't have to. All I ask is that you subscribe to support the channel and stay protected. And share this video with a fellow gun owner who needs to hear it. You might just save them from a situation they never saw coming. Stay safe, know your rights, and I'll see you in the next one.